Hello, freedom fighters.
Woohoo! Absolutely. Fantastic. And guys, our topic tonight, I've got my video on.
We can hear it twice.
Yeah,
anyway, we are here on a mission to empower 10,000 people to create financial freedom through property using the Markoski method.
Fantastic. One amazing new member at a time. Bring it on, bring it on. So today is quite an interesting topic. And I know that it's one that really comes up. I mean, both myself and Stacey involved with a lot of strategic sessions with people who want to get involved in our program. And I suppose one of the questions that always pops up, and the topic we're talking about tonight, is owner-occupied versus rent vesting. It's quite, yeah. And guys, anyone that's out there, if you want to have any questions, we'll get a time a bit after to
let us know you're here too.
Let us know you're here. Say hello, hashtag live, all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. So yeah, the topic tonight we're talking about is owner-occupied versus rent vesting. And look, if you want to add your little 2 bobs worth and any kind of thoughts, please feel free to join on up and do what we need to do. Fantastic.
That's it.
So look, I'm sure, you speak to a lot of people, Stacey, as well as myself.
We do. Yes.
The big question,
everybody wants their own.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. And look, I suppose, guys, I suppose it was the big Australian dream, wasn't it?
It's been ingrained.
The game's changed out there these days. And the reality is, the big Aussie dream, which, look, I know when I was growing up was, you go to school, you go to uni, or you get a trade, you save up your hard dollars to get your first investment property, and then you get your family home that you spend anywhere from 20 to 30 years paying off, a quarter of your life. And look, the whole idea is, the game's changed now, and how's it changed is because, these times, not necessarily people are going out and getting that first home straight away. They are doing rent vesting.
What do you think? Give us your opinion. Would
Okay,
you buy your own place first, or would you go investment?
Absolutely. Well, guys, I'm speaking from experience. I'm a complete rent vester. And the reason I'm a rent vestor is because that's how George started as well. He used to rent properties before. So rent where you want to live.
Buy where you want to make money.
Yeah.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Makes sense.
Absolutely. And so, look, I suppose tonight what we can do is really just go through the kind of pros and cons, I reckon. If there's anyone out there that's really kind of warring between the ideas of, should they get their first property be first property be their first principal family home, or should you rent and buy? So, look, someone's just written up there. Are you able to bring up the comments?
I can now. I didn't know how to do it before, but here we go. Okay. Oh, how can I be as happy as you?
Hey.
Join the club. Join the club. That's how.
Come and join our tribe. Be a part of it. Absolutely.
And we've got another rent vestor here as well.
Yep, another rent vestor. Fantastic. So let's look into it. Okay, so the reality is, let's say you go out and buy your principal family home. The reality is
an asset.
It's not an asset, is it?
Not
an
asset. That's how people see it, though. It's not an asset, is it?
Correct. And the other side of it as well, you've got really not much leverage. And the other big thing is you don't get a lot of tax deductions, from having your own home.
You're paying for it.
Correct. So I suppose the reason why I'm a rent vestor is I can comfortably buy properties every year. But who's actually covering all my expenses is the tenant and the tax man. Now, I can keep doing this year after year after year. But if I actually went out and got a first family home, I would actually have to wait maybe a couple of years to get the right equity before I could actually get into the market. And a lot can happen within that time, like those 2 years. Whereas I know that if I keep buying investment properties, the reality is sooner or later I'm going to say, right, I'm ready to buy a family home. Who do you think's actually going to end up paying for it? It's actually going to be my investment properties.
And like George says, you should never buy your owner occupier unless you can afford to do so. And most people cannot afford to live where they want to live. So they buy where they can afford to live.
Absolutely. And look, someone's just written here, I think it depends on your financial situation, circumstance, and family
Certainly does.
situation. Absolutely, 100%. I do believe that it really does depend. But look, at the same stage, look at things through COVID and this kind of environment we've been dealing with, a lot of rents have gone down, so it's a good time for renters, and the other thing also is, I suppose with my situation is being able to rent means if I decide I want to move or change state or do anything, I can just do it,
Not only that, look where you're renting.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people can't afford to live in these places, but because you've got properties behind you, you can. So maybe if you talk a bit more.
Yeah. So guys, I live in Port Melbourne, and I've got a beautiful kind of sub penthouse overlooking the whole harbour. I've got the Spirit of Tassie coming in every night. It's really picturesque. It's amazing. But the reality is, if I was to buy it, well, it's probably worth about 3.7 million. The amount of rent that I'm paying, because obviously COVID in Melbourne, like I've negotiated every year, I'm paying less rent now than I was when I first moved in.
So who's paying for that property?
Well, the reality
Not just
is
you.
No, the reality is the tenants, if they've had a mortgage on it, they'd be possibly losing money, so it'd be negatively geared.
Exactly.
The challenge is I know the tenants, and they're quite older, so they've actually paid it off, so that's fine. But the reality is it's over 30 years old, so they're not getting any tax deductions like in regards to depreciation because it's already done its dash. So if I was to buy this, I'd probably have to renovate it, because it's probably due for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a great apartment, don't get me wrong, but I know for me, if I owned it, I'd want a, new kitchen, and I'd want, up to the date kind of like bathrooms and new tiles and things like that. So, so the reality is, the challenge is if I was to buy it and it's 3.7, I can pretty much forget buying any properties for the next probably 10 years, whereas I would rather just keep buying properties every year, choose where I want to live. And by the time I get to, 10, 12 properties, the reality is I'll have so much borrowing capacity, but I'll also have passive income. And that's going to actually go towards my mortgage.
You can just buy it. You can just buy it. You can afford
Correct.
it. Like it's going to pay for itself. You're not having to work your butt off for it.
Absolutely. And we've got some things coming in: owner occupier emotional buys. Absolutely.
They are. Yeah. So everyone buys with their heart.
They buy with the heart because you're thinking, I mean, if you've got family, you want to be, close to schools and things like that. And,
and do you know where you want to live for the rest of your life? Most people will say yes, and then they'll move 3-4 times.
Correct. And it may take years before you actually get any equity. And that's the other thing with family homes. You're not guaranteeing that you're buying in high DSR areas.
Particularly if where you want to live is not in the top 100, which is highly likely.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. And so someone's just written here, I'm not sure whether you can get to the next one.
Which one? This one?
That's why I rent. So, that's why I rent, the freedom to move, and the owner is paying more than the rent in the loan repayments. Yeah, correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And so we've got another one that's come through. What about homeowner grants? Are we still eligible if we first... Okay, guys, so look, usually if the government are giving away money, if it's too good to be true, it usually is. And realistically, the challenge there is to get those home buyers grants. Now, I think they've kind of stopped them now, but they were quite rampant for a while there. Yep. The challenge is it has to be a new home, and you've got to live in it for the first 12 months. So the reality there is it actually stops you from getting a depreciation schedule as well. So the thing is, it's the government's way of, throwing a big carrot to start with, but the reality is,
Yeah.
saving money on the back end. So, and the challenge is you've got to live there. But the problem is, good luck getting, top 100 high
Yeah.
DSR, which is demand supply ratio, in an area.
Everything can line up.
Correct. Exactly. It doesn't line up, because then you're going to live in it for a year and then you're going to rent it out. And if you've bought in a big estate, how many other families have thought that as well?
See, and the other thing is, if you do actually have an owner occupier, utilize it.
Yeah, exactly.
Find out what you have in it and use it. Don't just let it sit there. A lot of people think work harder, and I'm going to pay for my property. I know so many of my friends that do it, and they think they've got to work harder and longer and put more money into their own occupier rather than thinking the other way around. Let's go get an investment. Every investment property you get is going to help pay that off faster.
Absolutely. And, the whole idea is, you think about it these days as well. Most people spend most of their life paying off their mortgage.
They do 30-year mortgages.
Right. And then they get into, retirement, and then they realize that they don't have enough super. And the sad thing is, guess what they do? They go sell their family home that they've spent most of their time. It's just absolutely, this whole flip around. It's just crazy. It's almost heartbreaking that the asset they've spent their, lives paying off, they go and go and sell it,
Yeah, that's it. They have to, and they have no choice. And like I was just talking to a lady today, just in the town here, and she was saying that the amount of money that you have in your super and then selling her own property, she does not have enough to retire.
Yeah,
In
absolutely.
10 years, if she does not do something, she essentially can't retire. She's going to have to work until she dies.
Absolutely. And we've got here, it says most brand new properties for government grants are out in Dust Bowl areas, hard to find an area you really want to live in. Look, that's right, guys. I mean, when we're talking Dust Bowls, imagine, look at this analogy is like, let's say you got 3,000 blocks of land up for grabs, right? The challenge is everyone's buying off a plan. Then you've got 3,000 people buying at the same time, 3,000 people building at the same time. Let's say 50% of them are investors. Now you've got, 1,500 people renting at the same time in the same area. What do you think happens to rents out there? That's right. They go down.
Yep, down.
Because that's a prime example of too much supply, not enough demand.
That's it.
So now you're stuck. You've been living in an area you don't want to live for a year. You finally moved out, and you can't get the rent that you're hoping for. That's why I probably talk out more families from doing first home buyers grants than anything, because they just think that they're just getting this big carrot to start with.
They just think
they don't realize the back end of it all, which sometimes you've got to think of the end before.
A lot of thought process behind, I know, talking just to older generations or other generations behind the owner occupier first, is they think you've always got something to go back to and you've always got something to rely on, but that's emotion. That's an emotion. They're still buying with an emotion at the end of the day.
That's right. Absolutely. And look, I suppose the biggest thing why I believe, investing is, before, is the fact that, look, I don't know about you guys, but it's all about minimizing tax as well. And I know that I'm going to probably show my age here, but, the famous Kerry Packer, his little political philosophy was, he was in front of the High Court, and he said, if you do not minimize your tax in this country, you should get your head read. And, he was saying along the lines of, as a government, I can definitely tell you they are not really spending it that well for us to keep giving them extra, So, the whole idea is it is ways to minimize your tax, and you've really got to understand the game out there, because you want to work smarter, not harder. And if there's ways to minimize your tax, well, guess what? I'd rather have that money in my offset account earning me interest than in the ATOs. Absolutely. So someone's just come up with, when you work out the numbers from a government grant versus buying an IP with great tax depreciation, can almost be the same when you do the numbers. Okay. The only challenge is you're buying out in different areas. You're not buying in top 100. So the reality is
It's
you're
where you
buying.
buy is huge.
So where
It's
you
the
buy
main
is
thing.
really important. So you might be able to crunch the numbers on the first year, but the reality is, you're not buying in those high growth areas. So
So are you able to repeat and buy another property the next year? No, you're probably going to have to wait 5.
yeah, absolutely. And with a lot of these government grants, the property prices are a lot higher. So the challenge is it's going to be a longer time to, get growth out of them where you can actually use the equity. And
Yep.
especially if you're buying in in low growth areas, the chances are you're in an area where everyone's trying to do the same thing. You're not going to have that equity to play with at a later stage.
To be honest, most people aren't thinking about where they buy at all. They're just going, this place looks nice. Let's buy here. There's
Correct.
no numbers, there's no calculation. It's a drive by. Hey, let's live here. This the street looks nice.
Yep,
Let's build right
absolutely.
there. And that's
Correct.
about the most thought process that I reckon that most people have. Correct me if I'm wrong,
No, absolutely. 100%.
but there's no actual thinking behind, oh, where do these numbers land? Where should I be buying to get the most money for me and my family? No, you're randomly just picking a spot, thinking it looks nice. Let's do it from that, and that's it.
That's it. Absolutely. I mean, realistically, to be an A grade investor in this climate, you've got to have 3 top things. Number 1, you need the right strategy. Number 2, you should only be buying in high growth areas with high DSR, demand supply ratio. And number 3, you need to know the numbers up front and do your research. If you don't tick off all those boxes, you should never buy the property in the first place.
Yeah.
And things like doing the due diligence, your research, and one thing I know that we do obviously with our members is, we do a cash flow calculator.
Yeah.
And you've got to crunch those numbers, and you've got to have every last cent, water rates, council,
Everything,
insurances,
everything.
banks, everything you need
Insurance.
down to the last little cent. You have to be in that cash flow calculator, because otherwise you're buying blind.
You are. And look, most people are buying blind. Give us your arguments. Why would you buy an owner occupier first? Let us know. What are your reasons behind it? Please
Yeah.
put them in the chat.
Get in there, guys. We would love to kind of answer any questions, because
Yeah, we'd love a little debate here too. We don't mind a debate, do we, Belinda?
Yeah, we love a good debate. Nothing wrong with a good debate. Absolutely. So I suppose the big thing is, we'll keep talking. I mean, the reality is the tax side of things, and you don't realize, a lot of people don't realize out there, that when you buy a property brand new and you rent it out from day one, when you get those keys, you're going to be entitled to a 10-year depreciation schedule. Whereas if you go out and buy, an existing property, you're not going to get a huge amount, sometimes down to even 0.
And who knows this information, really? Like, I didn't know this information. That's why I sought for someone that did know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I found someone that did know, I would rather, everything's a risk. Everything in life is a risk. You say, oh, yeah, it's a risk where you buy. And we get this little debate sometimes, I know, in our strategy calls, Belinda, but they sort of say, yeah, but how do you know that, that these are all calculated? This is going by someone that's, making $1 million a year in passive income from doing this exact thing. I'd rather follow him than guess my way there.
Absolutely. And you think about things like the data. George subscribes to actual data companies. This is no Google search engine. Like, if that was the case, it would be easier to do that. And
yes, to that next question.
Can you use your super to buy it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And how much do you need? Now, look, guys, I believe that was 180, but they've changed it now down to about 150.
Yeah, which is awesome. And you can combine with other people. If you've got a brother, a sister, or someone you really trust.
Well, funny enough, I had amazing dinner with my best friend Charmaine, who also works in the business, and we've all decided to put all of our super together.
Oh, wow. There you go. So, all the little collectives, you might as well make something from it.
Because, guys, I ran my own business for 25 years and I didn't really pay myself a lot of super. So I only have a little insy bitty amount. But you know what? If we can kind of all add it together and get one house that can sit there and let's say we spend $500,000 today. By the time, let's say,
You get to utilize it.
the youngest or the oldest one of us gets to 60, I mean, that's going to be worth nearly maybe 1.52 million.
That's it.
And if we go to sell that, we're not going to get capital gains tax, which is great. But what a great option for all of us to have in the next 10, 15 years as friends.
You're just not going to get that cash option too. Like if someone just puts their dribbles and drabs into the super via their wages, there's no way you're going to get $1 million in super. If you've got 150,000 in super, give us a call.
Yeah,
Send us
absolutely.
a message.
Yep, absolutely.
We're happy to help.
That's it. Maybe just if you want that, just put in hashtag wealth call. And we'll get someone to give you a buzz and have a bit of a chat. But Daniel, great question. But the other thing that you've got to be careful of, just regarding not just having the right money for super, you want to make sure you get the right properties.
Yes, so many people go in there and don't get the right properties. So many.
Because guys, I'm coaching as well. I've seen so many portfolios where people have gone out and bought the wrong property and put it in their super, and it's lost money, everything. And then they've had to sell it, and all the costs involved and everything else. It ended up being a really painful experience for those people. So you've got to make sure you get the right properties. And we always say here at Positive Property that one of our guarantees is always in the top 100. Yeah. So there's 16,000 suburbs out there. We want to be buying in the top 100, and that's all based on DSR.
Again, we want to outperform the rest of the market. We don't want to just be plowing along. We want to outperform the market. So top 100 only.
Yeah, exactly. Yep,
for sure.
And the reason why we can get top 100 is the fact that we're one of the biggest buyers groups in Australia, because we do have a lot of members, and that gives us a bit of muscle behind us, and that means we actually get properties before they go to market. So you need to cut out the middleman to be an A-grade investor, and I really believe that our members absolutely love that feature.
That's it. So what's the right property? Positively geared.
Absolutely. Top 100, positively geared, and brand new, so you can still get your tax deductions. Hello.
You need to get that depreciation. A lot of people will buy these old houses and do them up. You're not getting that money back.
No, absolutely. And even in the early days, I mean, I've known George for years. When he was first starting out with properties, he was buying old properties and he was renovating them and flipping them.
Flipping. That's how he started. He's learnt from his mistakes.
Long term, he actually said that he didn't make a lot of money out of it. And the problem is there's not a huge amount of tax deductions, not in comparison to buying a brand new property today.
And then add up the time that you've got to put into that. The thing I liked about this company when I first joined, it's simple and it's easy. The work's done for you. There's no calling people and finding out who's going to renovate your place or who's going to be doing the next step or who's going to be doing the next step. Then you've got time while the property's sitting there while you're renovating it. You add up all those fees, add up your time on top of that, then work down to the dollar. How much did you actually make?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. And to be quite honest, I know from, even deciding to become a member with this company, before I became, obviously employed through the company, I looked for, other people out there and other companies. There is thousands, absolutely thousands of strategies out there. Guess what we do? Just one. And then when you get to another property, guess what? You're not changing anything. It's just rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. It's nice and simple.
It's really simple. But I always say, guys, if investing was easy, everyone would be doing it. And I don't mean buying property. I mean actually, because anyone can buy property. All you need is a bit of money. Go out there, go for it, But in regards to being an A-grade investor, positively geared, top 100, it is a little bit more difficult, but that's why you really want to make sure you've got a mentor who knows all the basic principles that you can learn off. And
someone to coach you through it. We are a company of education. You can sign up to a program and then be educated on that.
Yeah.
Take that into consideration. You can actually learn from it. You can actually gain the knowledge. How much do you pay for a university course?
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot more.
Well, So, even George said, I think he's spent in his time just by going to courses, flying to different states, trying to get information from other people. He spent like nearly $500,000 on
Yeah.
education.
And we don't have to because he did it for us.
Correct. Absolutely. Now,
So someone's written, is it possible to use super and sit it in an offset account?
okay, so I'm not really sure. I don't think
I
so.
don't believe so, no.
From my personal, from what I believe, I would say no. But again, that would be a really good question for
Raiden.
Raiden.
Yep.
So if you want to drop us a little line, we can always get back to you on that one. But I really believe no. You got to keep it separate because a super is actually set up as a self-managed super fund. So that's kind of very separate to obviously your day-to-day banking.
Yep.
All right. Sorry, what is
top 100? They don't know what we're talking about.
okay. So Daniel, great question. So Daniel, there's 16,000 suburbs in Australia. And one of the things that you've got to understand is in every state of Australia, there's a different property clock. Okay. And when you're looking at a property clock, and there's thousands of clocks, there's hundreds of clocks out there, different states. The reality is you don't want to be buying in the 12 o'clock market because obviously that's
too high.
And you don't want to be buying in the bottom of the market, all right, which is obviously 6. So where do you want to buy? It's the 7 o'clock market, which is the beginning of a recovery or the growth cycle.
You want to know that it's going to go up. You buy right at that bottom, you don't know how long it's going to be sitting there for either.
Correct. Absolutely. So what we've established, and this is George's IP, obviously, and he spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on research. And the reality is through that research, he can actually find out exactly where the top 100 suburbs are in Australia. And obviously, once he knows those suburbs, well, that's where we source the right properties for our members. So
that's very transparent where he gets the information from too. It's all shown in our programs and everything. So
absolutely,
it's just a lot of time if you want to spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the top 100, Daniel. So hopefully you've learned something today. But yeah, you want to be only buying in the top 100. Your relationship with others has to be solid. I was just about to say when I said it,
make sure
solid.
Yep.
Absolutely solid.
And make sure you have a lot of trust there, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's important that you've got that longevity of friendship and things like that. And as long as there's open communication, and
there's many different ways that you can set up a JV too. Like you can have an agreement, some sort of clause in it that says it can't be sold for so long, or we're going to sell it in 10 years, and whatever it is, you would have that written into it before you went ahead and did it all. So obviously once you get to the lawyer stage of that, you can organize all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we don't know your name there, but your relationship with others, thank you very much for adding that, because that is very important.
It's true. You want to make sure it's a nice, solid relationship for sure. Correct. And you've got agreements in place.
Yes.
Things fall apart. You want to know you've got things in place to back yourself up as well.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. So we've, we're chatting about, owner occupier versus rent vesting.
Yep. So are you utilizing your owner occupier? Is there anyone out there that's just sitting on $300,000 in equity and not using it?
Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
Are you out there? Drop us a line. Let us know. Yeah, why can I use that? A lot of people don't know they can just buy with their equity.
I know. They're sitting on a pile of money in their lounge room. And equity, guys, is like a lazy teenager. You go to work all day, you come home, it's still on the couch. Playing Nintendo and eating your food. Come on, guys. You've got to start thinking smarter, not harder. Get that money working for you. And if there's any time to, start utilizing it. I mean, I always say, when was the best time to buy property? Maybe 10 years ago. When's the next time to buy property?
Now. Now.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the lady I was talking to today. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. I'll just get another job. She said, I'll just get another job and work harder.
Yeah.
No, you've got to work smarter.
Absolutely. And guys, can I definitely tell you, when you get to a point when you're getting so much, you know, you know, so much depreciation and so much tax back, because depreciation schedules are actually only one kind of level of where you can get tax. There's lots of little ways that you can obviously minimize your tax when you're an investor. The reality is, guys, when we go to work and we work really hard and the government takes a big chunk, it does put a different jig in your step.
Yeah.
When you know that you're getting your money back, and what are you doing with it? You're reinvesting it back into your future. Look, it does. It makes you feel like your money's working for you while you sleep. So you have a much better sleep, but you've got to put those wheels in motion, because it's the little baby steps you do now which will have absolutely rippling effects later on down the track. 100%.
So maybe we'll read the next question.
Yep, let's get into it.
Yeah, so you can always lease your owner-occupier for up to 5 years if you decide to change your mind and rent vest. Utilize the equity in the if you have any, but to buy an investment property while earning rent from
your owner-occupier.
Owner-occupier, right? Yeah.
It's not an expression.
I was like, my okay.
That's it.
Owner occupy, yes.
Okay, so if you decide to change your mind, absolutely utilize the equity, buy investment properties while earning. Exactly.
So you can do that for sure. However, if you have the choice between buying an owner occupier and an investment, I would always recommend the investment first.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you don't have the choice and you're already in that position, then yeah, sure. However, if you do the figures and it's an older property, it may be negatively geared. Just keep that in mind.
Correct. Absolutely. And it always comes down to the simple thing of making sure you've got the right strategy. You buy top 100 and you know the numbers up front.
So if you don't have a choice and you're already there, yep, sure. Utilize what you've got. Do whatever you can to use whatever you have. If you have an owner occupier sitting there with equity in it, use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy 100%. To leave it just sitting there doing nothing. And your future plus your kids' future, I mean, this is something you're teaching them too.
Absolutely.
You're teaching them out of that cycle that we've been taught for so many years of, you must buy your house first, own it. Put a lot of money in your superannuation. Make sure you've got enough to live. Superannuation is going to, it is not going to get you through. Unless you plan. I mean, I calculated someone's today and I'm like, well, you're going to live for 3 years? Because all you're going to have at the moment, you're going to have to do something unless you plan to live for only 3 years after you retire.
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. And I know that we were giving out a retirement calculator.
Yes. That was very handy. Maybe we'll get someone to pop that in the link for us.
If you want one, just put hashtag property retirement calculator. We'll get one out to you, because that's a real eye opener too, So I think it's really important that you have the end in mind.
Sometimes it's a bit scary to think about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, it's very scary.
The reality for me is I don't even see myself retiring. Just keep doing things that I enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. But at least you have a choice. If you want to work one day, you can work one day a week.
Exactly. And that's why I'm building up a portfolio. And the reason I chose someone like George to help me start my portfolio was because he had runs on the board. He was a mentor of real life results. That's what I wanted. There was a lot of people out there that I'd seen, and I'd flown to Queensland. I went to Sydney, and I watched all these talks, and I had people coming up to me asking me if I wanted to get involved in their membership, and I would pretty much turn around and go, yeah, well, how many properties do you own? And they were like, none. And I was just like, well, yeah, how are you going to teach me anything? Hello?
It's like the good old real estate agent that doesn't own any properties either.
Yeah, exactly right.
Plenty of those around. Look, I did a few courses before I came across this one as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. The difference between this one and the other ones that I did do was this one is less work.
Yeah.
Take my time.
It might sound, I don't want to sound negative, but we're very lazy investors.
We're lazy.
We're
We
lazy.
want to put our time and effort where it's needed. If this is working for our future, then we can work for our now.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why, things like buying older properties and flipping them and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't always give you the returns that you think it
A
would.
lot of people, I think, have that love and that passion for creating something like I'm turning this home into a beautiful home, which is great. But that to me is a hobby and an expensive one.
Yeah, correct. I think there's too many reality shows out there like The Block.
There is. It's an
they're
expensive hobby.
glorifying this whole idea that you're going to buy this beautiful home and renovate it.
Yep.
And, flip it and make, hundreds of thousands of dollars. The challenge is, they've spent most of that just renovating as well, So.
Yeah, exactly. So what are we at now? So we look. Do you want to talk a little bit about what we're doing next week as well?
Okay. So
coming.
Next week, what are we doing? We've got.
So we have got at 6:35 Australian Eastern Standard Time. George and Christina will be offering a Christmas special.
Woo!
So stay tuned because it's going to be an exciting one too. So
Secret Santa.
You don't want to miss that one because I reckon if you're on live, you're just going to get a lot more benefit out of that one. So
Absolutely.
keep tuned for that one.
So make sure you tune in next week, guys, because we'll have our little George and Christina doing their little Christmas special, which will be great.
Yes.
And look, the next thing I'd always say is Christmas. It's coming around.
All right. Someone's written here, they don't teach us this in schools, the rent vesting strategy and the advantage. We are sold on the dream of owning your own home and to be in debt to the banks for most of our lives. That's exactly right. I wish they taught this in schools.
Correct. Absolutely.
And if you've ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad or done any of that type of stuff, he says the same things.
Absolutely.
They do not teach this in schools. Why don't they teach this in schools?
Guys, can I just tell you, the banks aren't going to be on your side. We don't have the 5 richest banks in Australia for nothing.
No. And what is the percentage? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it 1% of people that are successful from investing in properties? 1% in Australia that live off their properties?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're a very small percentage. Very small.
We sure are. We are, absolutely. And so we've got about 10 minutes left. So, guys, if you've got any questions regarding rent vesting versus owner-occupied, now's your chance,
And if you want to have a chat with one of us, please just pop it, hashtag wealth call in the chat so that we can have a chat to you guys and we'll book you through. And I'll give you a call and go from there.
Absolutely. I mean, our job is to, sit down and talk to people about the strategy, and the strategy can be life-changing, guys. It's like, creating a blueprint for your future, and
it's exciting.
And it's
once you do it, and once you let go, and you know how hard it is to let go. If you've had in your head and it's been ingrained into you that you need to buy your own occupy first, it's very hard to let go of that and say to yourself, for the next 10 years, I am just going to rent and invest. It's very hard to change your mind into that way of thinking. And I had to say it to myself quite a few times before I decided that's it. I'm renting here.
Yep, rent vesting. And the funny thing is, a lot of things have happened in my life, and the opportunities I've had in regards to investing have been huge. And that 5 years has just gone like boom, gone, quick.
Gone.
And I know the next 5 years are going to go fast pretty quick too. And I know that any, people out there with young children hang out with kids. They make things go really quick too. I mean, 1 minute they're, crawling around, next minute they're standing up and
you think 10 years
back to you, giving you attitude.
That's it.
Attitude.
You feel like when you first start, you feel like, oh my God, like 10 years. You say I'm not going to get profit for 10 years. Well, you may get it sooner, but the reality is you want to be realistic and, worst case scenario, it's 10 years.
That's it.
10 years, like you just said, it will go like so fast. And then before you know it, you're the only person out of all your friends that didn't do it when you did it back 10 years ago. You're the only one going on holidays where you want to go on holidays. You're the only one able to go and see them at their daughter's wedding and stay for 2 weeks
Correct.
because you didn't need to go home for a job.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, that was one of the things that I was warring with before I became a coach. I mean, I used to run my own business and most of my work was on weekend work, so I would always be flying out of the state that I lived in at the time, whether it be Adelaide, Melbourne, or wherever. I'd be flying out on a Wednesday or Thursday and I wouldn't come home till the Monday. So the challenge was that I was doing that for nearly 20 years. And so the reality for me is I missed out on a lot of stuff. Like I had cousins' engagement parties and weddings and 21sts and 30ths and all that kind of stuff because I was always working.
Yep.
And so, by getting out of that and getting a few investment properties under my belt, it's been able to just take kind of the load off, which is really important,
And like we've got the best job in the world, Belinda, because we can travel with our work.
Absolutely.
Okay, someone's written there. I currently live in an owner-occupied home. So am I better off renting? That's depending.
Okay, so there's a couple of factors that go into that, and it just got Facebook user on mine, so I don't know who you are, but great question. So look, the reality is it would come down to a few factors, and the first factor would be where you're currently living at the moment, as to what the market was in the area in regards to whether it was going to be able to be rent, you were going to get the right price for it.
Is it new? Is it old?
Yeah, is it new? Is it old? Yeah, I mean, you need to look at the DSR in the area. So the reality would be you would have to do a bit of research. But look, I think I've had a lot of members that have joined our program who have rented out their family home and living in a different state just so they can do something different with the family. And by that stage, they've gone out and bought investment properties.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So I really think whoever mentioned that, I would say get in contact with do a wealth call, because if the more information you guys get for yourselves on your own situation, the more you're going to make the right decisions moving forward. Very important.
Yeah, I'll have a chat to you if you just pop a hashtag down and I'll contact you.
Absolutely. So good question. You might as well check it out. You've got nothing to lose, huh?
We'll just have a chat and see what your overall situation is.
Okay. If I'm going to be 10 years older, I might as well be richer through investing in real estate. Yay. Hopefully that's one of our members. One of our members. Woohoo.
That's it. You might as well be richer. You might as well be financially free and tripping around the country to wherever you want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, I suppose the biggest thing that we find with people that go onto our wealth calls, I think all they're looking for is that green light to say, like, can we do this?
You can do it. Yep.
Can we do it? Can we do it?
And this is what George always says, if there's a will, there's a way.
Look,
I know
that George got to a stage when he was early investing and he was involved with negative geared properties, and he came to that crossroads in his life where there was the two doors. Does he just give up on property, sell up and, make a bit of a loss? Or does he go through the second door and find out as much information as he can for him to go to the next level, And I'm so glad that he chose the right door, because that obviously started this massive journey towards education and, strategies and finding the right properties and doing his due diligence. I mean, there's so much involved with getting an investment properry.
A lot of people say they think they can do it themselves. You can't. You cannot. You can try. But you're looking at someone that does it full time every day, 24/7. To you, that might dabble in Google or a few figures at nighttime for half an hour or an hour before you go to bed.
That's right.
That's the reality. Is this person is making money from it, doing it full time. how much time and effort can you put into it with a full-time job?
Exactly. And I don't think people. I've talked to people in the past that have turned around and tried to do it themselves. It doesn't surprise me that people do go out there and try and do it themselves.
No.
But it doesn't surprise me even more. A year to 2 years later, they come back.
Yeah, and then
And
they
now
say,
they need their portfolio completely a cleanse over it and refigured and redone and refinanced and everything else. And
we're
they've
just
made a
tough
few
women,
they've
though.
made a few mistakes along the line. And look, don't get me wrong, mistakes are good, mistakes help you learn. But I don't think anyone's out there to lose 50 to 100K just in a bad lesson.
That's it in a bad lesson. And based on what you can get investment properties for, if you get them in the right location, a lot of the time you're making that money back in the first 6 months.
Correct. And even George, and I think we might need to talk to George about maybe even over the Christmas break pulling out some of his old podcasts. I mean,
Yeah.
George was making predictions about the market 2 years ago, and the media were, sensationalism was saying, the market's going to crash, the sky's falling, the market's going to crash. Don't invest in property. Don't put your money in the bank. And there was all this chaos and with all this COVID. And George was actually doing podcasts going, no, guys, this is a correction period. The market's going to go up. If there's any time to buy property, do whatever you can and buy property now. And the people that, were buying property through our membership, the reality was their properties have skyrocketed,
They have made so much money.
And I know for me personally, I've made a lot of money out of my properties as well in areas. And, and it was just because we got the right mindset from someone who really understood what they were talking about.
Knows the market. They know it well.
Knows their market, knows their stuff. I mean, George has been doing this.
If these properties that you're finding are on real estate or domain, it's too late.
We call it real estate.porn.
It's too late. Those properties have already gone up.
Yep. We call it real estate.porn. If we've got members, get rid of the app. You won't need it anymore, And you're right, Stacey, by the time a lot of people look at these properties on realestate.com, by the time they've gone to try and get them, they're gone. But they're also come with, quite a hefty
extra lot of money on top of it.
Why are they on there? Because it's, there's real estate agents behind it. There's buyer's agents, so there's no such thing as
the ones we rejected.
Absolutely. So what are the best property locations to invest in Queensland? Well, look, I would love to share that with you, but that's our IP. And straight after this, we're actually going into our weekly Sherps. And our Sherps are just like a Sherpa going up an icy mountain. We've got George, and he's helping us up the mountain, because as investors, as I said before, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. So,
if we told you, we can't give away where to buy unless
that wouldn't be fair
on our call and go straight through, and we'll put you in for a membership and we'll join you in the shirts.
And then we'll tell you all the hot spots. Absolutely.
Everything.
But look, I mean, I've got a property that I bought probably about 4 years ago in Queensland, and it's gone through the roof. But the challenge is there's no land out there. It's only 14 kilometres from the city. So I can tell you what area it is, but good luck.
You can't get it anyway.
Actually, funny enough, this is a funny story. When I bought that property, George had actually rang me and he said, Belinda, go to your next time you pass a newsagent, go and go and buy the latest property investor magazine. And so I thought, oh, great, I'll do that. And I walked in there, and it was actually the suburb that I just bought in it was probably about 3-4 months later. And it came out, this publication, and I bought it. And I rang up George straight away, and he goes, I know, how good is that? You've bought in amazing. The problem is, guys, when you're reading those magazines, there's 6 months. It's
too late. Too late again. You've got to be ahead of the game.
because that was probably, it was about 4 or 5 months after I'd bought. And the problem was, the reason why it was such a sought after area was it was so close to the city, and the land, there was no land in that area.
No.
So that's the reason why the area went up. It was actually half of it was quite industrial. And so what they did was clear a lot of the industrial part and start building lovely kind of little communities. And yeah, I managed to get involved with one of those, which was great. Full family home,
Yeah,
which I was
awesome.
pretty.
That's why you need a coach behind you.
Oh well,
I mean,
I wouldn't have that property if George didn't have his networks.
that's
You know,
it.
and that's why, you know, being a part of a buyers group is fantastic. You know, because you've got someone like George who's got his little networks out there. He's got his little antennas out there, connecting with people, and we
Doing
get
all the research.
getting all the properties before they go to market. Now, not all properties are suitable. You know, that's why we have the in-house joke, and we call George what do we call him? The John West of property, because he rejects 95%. But that's good. That's good, because then
good
we
for
know that
us.
we're getting quality. Someone wrote, no handouts, no handouts.
Oh yeah, I did that
only.
one, sorry. Yeah, no handouts, only hand ups only. That's it. We'll help you up.
We'll help you up. Absolutely. What's our next question?
Costly mistakes in real estate can set you back years financially. Engage with an organization that can set you on the right path from the get-go.
I couldn't say it better myself.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Perfect. That must
and you know
be.
What? I mean, realistically, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I just want to add, you know, we get so many people that, you know, want to do wealth calls and strategy calls, and the ones that are really scared, the ones that are really reluctant, is because they have made some bad decisions in the past,
or they've been shot before,
and it has costed them financially. It really has.
We tell people, do your research. Research us. You know, we've got a very good name behind us. We're very proud of who we work for, and do your research on us, and you'll find out we're a very good company.
Yep.
And we've got very good values.
And values is what it's all about. And what are our values? It is the word heart.
Heart.
So H stands for have fun.
Have fun.
A stands for, I'll let you go.
H-E.
A.
Heart. A. Sorry, heart. Authentic.
Authentic. I forgot E.
Oh, that's what I thought. I was
We're mixing it. We're keeping it fresh, exciting, spontaneous. E stands for everybody wins.
Everyone wins.
Our members, everyone, the staff, the community. Very important. R stands for radical responsibility.
Radical responsibility.
And T is thankful and grateful.
We're very thankful.
And with that note, now guys, this time, same bat channel, same bat time, George and Christina will be doing a Christmas special. Very exciting, fantastic. So we're excited about that. So you don't want to miss that one. And
can't wait for that.
If you know
anyone before Christmas, make sure you log on or you'll miss out.
And if you know any like-minded people that want to get into property, get them to join our Facebook page so you can be a part of the community. And, you know, there's some great topics every week that we go through. So, you know, it's good to be a part of a community. It's got that vibe where you know that you're not alone.
That's it. And you've got someone backing you up.
Exactly. And I can tell you straight out, guys, it's not fun being a lonely investor. It is so nice to be able to share wins with like-minded people who are all doing the same thing. And I know for me personally, as well as some of our members, we've seen some amazing kind of rags to riches, you know, zero deposit to 3 properties, you know.
Minus, starting off on a minus.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, guys, we got to get going because we've got to get to our shirt. We don't want to be late. We don't want to be late for our members. We've got some really exciting things to talk about tonight, so we've got to get ready. Remember, if you want to do a wealth call, just put hashtag
wealth call, and we'll give you a call.
And have a chat. What have you got to lose? You know, we got the new year coming around, so, you know, this could be an opportunity.
Start off on the right foot?
Get started, get a little bit of information, because we can talk about investing and all that till the cows come home, but what's the best investment is yourself.
Education, educate yourself.
Absolutely. And with that, we better get going. Hey, guys, Freedom Fighters.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you. Have a great week. Make it amazing.
And have an awesome Christmas if we don't see you before.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Have an amazing Christmas. Have lots of fun. And, yeah, enjoy the downtime if you're getting some. I know I will
Bye.
be. Ciao, ciao.